In April of 2024, Ajax Council unanimously passed a motion calling on the province to acknowledge the IPV an epidemic in Ontario. That motion committed the town to holding a roundtable discussion with subject matter experts, local service providers, and IPV survivors to understand the challenges and how we can help.
The lessons learned during that roundtable have been compiled into the Town of Ajax and Partners Intimate Partner Violence 2024 report. The report concludes with 13 action items assigned to different groups and levels of government, including the Town of Ajax, which will enhance community awareness, facilitate training opportunities to build more capacity for IPV support, facilitate interagency meetings, and continue to call for action from upper levels of government.
The report is being launched on December 10th, which is the 16th day of activism against gender-based violence. The campaign emphasizes how crucial it is to involve everyone in changing social norms, attitudes, and behaviors that contribute to gender-based violence. In Canada, a 2019 study revealed that 79% of individuals who reported experience in intimate partner violence were women. It's so important that we bring more attention to these type of campaigns and create the space to talk about this issue that is, unfortunately, happening right here in the town of Ajax.
My name is Sherry Robinson, and I'm the owner of a day spa called Spa Sedona in Ajax. When one of my staff did not show up for work one day, I was concerned when she didn't return my calls. She had an ex-boyfriend that was trying to get back with her, and their relationship had been very rocky. Their relationship had many red flags right from the beginning. It started off with over-the-top, exaggerated dates, gifts, flowers, so over the top it would be considered red flag. He rushed to move in with her. Then he started driving her upscale SUV that she loved and gave her his junkie car. He got her bank codes and ran up her credit card debt. He isolated her from her friends by making up lies about them. He stopped her from wearing makeup because he told her it made her look like a hooker. He told her she was fat and she got so thin. She started wearing a long sleeve baggy sweaters that she had never worn before. All of us at the spa were so relieved when they broke up. So when we heard he was trying to get back with her, we were all concerned. When I still could not get in touch with her, I drove to her house to check on her. The ex-boyfriend's truck was in the driveway. When I knocked at the door, he came to the door and he seemed surprised to see me. He was out of breath and not wearing anything but sweatpants. I asked to speak to her, but he said she was sick, and he acknowledged that he knew that I was her boss. As I requested again to speak to her, I noticed dried blood on his upper arm. Then I noticed wet blood on the top of his foot. I was afraid that he had done something to her, and I insisted that I wanted to see her before I left, but he refused and said that he would have her call me. I left, I drove up the street, I stopped my car and called a friend who I'd called on my way there who was in law enforcement. I told him about the blood and he told me to stay there and he would send police. As I turned my car around to see the house, the ex-boyfriend's truck was gone. I went back to the house and when I knocked on the door again, it swung open. I went inside, calling her name over and over and asking if she was okay. She was not okay. I have told this account in more detail to the preliminary hearing and later the trial that would find him guilty of these 3 murders. As hard as it is for me to tell this story, it is an important message for people to hear. Women who are in the abusive relationship or people who have family and friends that are in those relationships to recognize the red flags of domestic violence and get out before the tragedy that happened to this woman and her 2 children doesn't happen to them. Those relationships that start out so wonderful, but once the abuser has the control, they take over these women's lives, they take away the things they love, and they destroy their self-esteem just because they can. I hope her story helped you recognize the signs, the red flags of domestic abuse. To date, the murder of this woman and her 2 children was the worst intimate partner violence case in Durham Region's history. As a community, we have to work to make sure this doesn't happen again.
Hi everyone, my name is Sydney Marcoux and I'm the Clinical Director of Victim Services of Durham Region. I want to thank you for the opportunity to be here today to address an issue that affects our community. However, I dream about a day where I don't have to stand here in front of you and plead for our supports in government, above the town of Ajax to recognize this as an epidemic. As echoed, we've seen 62 femicides in the province of Ontario from November of last year to November of this year, 5 of which were right here in Durham Region. A heartbreaking statistic that reflects a broader epidemic of violence against women. Each of these women, they had a story, a dream, and loved ones who are now facing unimaginable grief. Behind these scenes are numbers and families and communities shattered by a loss of a sister, a daughter, a mother, or a friend in the aftermath of these tragedies. Organizations like Victim Services step in to offer a critical support and role. We are a small and passionate team of staff and volunteers who provide crisis intervention, emotional support, and guidance, helping devastated families navigate the emotional and legal aftermath of a femicide. We ensure that no one has to walk through this trauma alone, offering a lifeline when it often feels lost. The IPV statistics are sobering. We know here that 1 in 4 women will experience abuse in her lifetime. And for those Indigenous women, this rate is even higher. 1 in 3 women will face emotional or physical abuse by her intimate partner. On average, we know it takes 7 attempts for a woman to leave an abusive relationship. Tragically, when the resources to support a woman and children are unavailable, she may never have the opportunity to escape to a place of safety again. Last year, Victim Services of Durham Region supported nearly 2,500 women impacted by intimate partner violence, and our shelter systems, our VAW shelters here in the region, received 1,062 calls for support, but unfortunately due to capacity restraints and those beds already being occupied by women and children who require them, they were unable to flee to a place of safety. This isn't just a gap in services, this is a life-threatening crisis. When a woman reaches out for help and hears there's no space, we're leaving her to endure abuse and potentially fatal consequences. People often ask me, what do we have to do about this? We recognize that this is an issue, and we appreciate Ajax and the region recognizing this as an epidemic. What I can tell you is that the rising cost of living exacerbates this issue. Financial insecurities often trap women in abusive relationships, making it impossible to leave. As a community, we must address this. We need transitional housing and additional emergency shelter beds, specifically for these women fleeing abuse. Affordable housing initiatives must be prioritized to survivors, ensuring that they have a safe place to rebuild their lives. But it's not just about housing. Meeting the basic needs of women is critical. This includes access to childcare, financial assistance, and employment supports. When we fail to provide these necessities, we force victims to choose between safety and survival, a choice no one should ever have to make. Education. We do this and we talk about this a lot. Education and prevention is also critical in the fight against intimate partner violence. We need to teach young people about healthy relationships, consent, and the signs of abuse. Breaking the cycle of violence starts in our young people, where we should be equipping the next generation with the tools to build equitable and respectful relationships. Organizations like ours, Victim Services, plays a large support in these families' lives. But we can't do it alone. It takes community, it takes businesses, and it takes governments to create a system that protects and empowers survivors. In closing, let us remember that addressing IPV is not the responsibility of one organization or one government. It's a collective call to action for all of us as a community. We must advocate for increased funding for shelters and transitional housing, ensuring no woman is turned away when she seeks safety. We must provide resources to meet the basic needs of women and children fleeing violence, breaking the chains of financial dependency that often keeps them trapped. And let us educate our young people about healthy relationships to prevent the cycles of abuse and create a culture rooted in respect and accountability.
The roundtable showed us that there is tremendous opportunity for collaboration when it comes to increasing advocacy, intervention, servicing survivors, and identifying prevention strategies. You can learn more about the town's plan to combat IPV and Ajax, the challenges faced by service providers on a day-to-day basis, future collaboration opportunities, and more in the Town of Ajax and Partners Intimate Violence 2024 report.